Hello, and welcome to a review of Herod the Great, a psychoanalytic review of personality for Wilmington University. The history of the world has always been plagued with violent men intent on doing harm to humanity. Men like Hitler, Genghis Khan, and Saddam Hussein have left bloodstained marks on the world and in the lives of the people they ruled over. One of the greatest tyrants in the history of the world was Herod the Great, Roman client king of Judea. Though Herod committed many atrocities, it was the massacre of innocents that he's notorious for. Herod was born in 74 BCE. His political father appointed him governor of Galilee when he was only 25 years old. He would later become Roman client king of the Jews. This appointment was difficult for Herod because he was only half Jewish. This half Jewish ancestry was a conflict in his personality. In the world of Harry Potter, he would have been known as a mudblood. Psychoanalytic theorist Alfred Adler focused on a theory of individuality in personality development. His theory says human beings instinctively strive to move forward to reach a better place. The inferiority complex, which is a component of that, is defined as a lack of self-esteem, feeling of inadequacy, or lack of self-confidence. This feeling of inadequacy began in Herod's youth and carried on through adulthood. Herod was a neurotic human being, struggling to identify his own self and develop a self-concept. This neuroticism led to Herod developing an identity crisis. Herod was unable to define who he was from a personal perspective. His half-Jewish descent, along with other issues of security like Herod's small stature and unsuccessful attempts at archery, only served to exasperate his identity crisis. Struggling with his identity appears to have led to an internal ego conflict, which resulted in identity confusion and negative identity, only strengthening his inferiority complex. Adler's theory uses a concept known as felt plus and felt minus. His individual personality theory, which refers to personality progressing through negative dispositions, or felt minuses, to positive dispositions, or felt pluses. Having an inferiority complex, identity crisis, and felt minuses all led Herod to compensate with delusions of grandeur. The superiority and inferiority complex caused him to build superior kingdoms, megalomanias. This is evidenced by his intention of achieving perfection and supremacy, that is, producing the largest, the grandest, and most magnificent, calculated to evoke a sense of amazement beyond anything the world had ever seen, according to Kasher and Witzman. This is strikingly similar to Adler's superiority complex stage, in which a person believes themselves better than others, according to Cloninger in 2013. Adolf Hitler was also said to suffer from a superiority complex. Herod's half-Jewish descent revealed that he clearly favored Rome, as evidenced by his suppressive actions against his own people. Additionally, Herod despised those who were superior to him in both looks and athletics. This only helped to expand Herod's jealousy and envy, which dominated his life and tormented his mind. This paranoid schema led Herod to constantly fear wars that would never come. These were manifestations of his paranoia. All of Herod's personality ailments combined at one time in history and resulted in what was known as the Massacre of Innocents. Herod received word that a newborn king in the city of Bethlehem was being followed by large masses of people. This newborn king, known as Jesus of Nazareth, caused Herod so much psychological suffering that he ordered the murder of children under the age of 2. Herod's paranoia led him to believe that this child would ultimately win the affections of the people and replace him as king of the Jews. Herod was tormented by his paranoia, and it was at this point in history that his paranoia got the best of him, but unfortunately it wouldn't be the last. Herod's torment by the sight of taller, more handsome men who were excellent athletes and hunters, yet he arguably surrounded himself with these male Adonises, even to the point of intimacy, according to Kasher and Witzman. Often Herod would execute these servants for seemingly minor infractions, but in reality, their successes and appearances sealed their fate. Herod's unresolved aggressive drive as a youth resulted in extreme acts of cruelty throughout his life. A personality disorder is defined in the DSM-4 as an enduring pattern of inner experience and behavior that differs markedly from the experiences of individuals. Cultures, is pervasive and inflexible, has an onset in adolescence or early adulthood, is stable over time, and leads to distress or impairment. Personality disorders are long-standing and manipulative patterns of perceiving and responding to other people and stressful circumstances, according to patient.com. Herod's personality, from what we have seen thus far, he's exhibiting inferiority complex, superiority complex, aggressive drive, paranoia, personality disorders. The personality disorder with psychopathic and paranoid features are the biological component of Herod's diagnosis. That is missing from Adler's theory. Adler's theory focuses mainly on social perspective and not the biological perspective, according to Cloninger in 2013. These features that Adler's theory forgoes because he focuses more on the environmental implications of Herod's personality, not necessarily the biological component. Yet we cannot overlook the importance of the biological component related to Herod's narcissism. There was clearly an unbalancing between Herod's conscious and unconscious state. Narcissistic personality disorder is generally believed to result in the biopsychosocial model of causation. As time went on, the dichotomy within the four walls of Herod's castle became further conflicted as the result of Herod's dysfunctional self. The complexity of mind led to the murders of men close to him, the torture and murder of his most beloved and intimate servant, Carsus, whom he loved greatly, yet despised because of his beauty, only is further evidence of Herod's paranoid personality disorder. Herod's inflexibility relative to his fictional finalism allowed him to repress his unconscious and continue in his barbaric ways. Due to his superiority complex, aggressive drive, and neuroticism, Herod never reached a point of fictional finalism that would allow the unconscious to challenge the conscious in a positive way. The personality trait that best describes Herod is neuroticism. Understanding that emotional instability, anxiousness, and irritability are all hallmarks of this trait correspond completely with what we've seen of Herod. Based on a totality of the circumstances that we know of about King Herod the Great, we can confidently say that Herod suffered from a personality disorder, neuroticism, inferiority complex, superiority complex, narcissism, and neuroticism. But surely not all murderers have these same traits. Well, like a perfect storm, Herod happened to be in a position of power, like the men we spoke of at the beginning of the presentation, Hussein, Hitler, Genghis Khan, and others. Herod was able to exercise his brutality unchallenged because of his position of superiority as the king of the Jews. And that completes this presentation on the psychoanalytic review of Herod the Great.